Today is July 14th, 2018. My name is Irene and I'm interviewing Oswald Fudge in Gander, Newfoundland. Oswald, can you please introduce yourself?
I'm, well, really it's Oswald, O-S-W-A-L-D, Fudge. I was the municipal police officer with the town of Gander for 30 years, and now I'm a councillor with the town of Gander. I've lived here almost all my life.
And what were you doing on 9/11?
Working for the town of Gander as a municipal police officer, enforcement officer, whatever people like to call us at that time. Part of our job here in this town, like there's only 2 municipal police officers at that time. There was only 2 of us. The RCMP are the main police force within the town, right? So they took care of criminal code and all that. For us, what we did was some provincial acts, like Highway Traffic Act for speeding and things like that, and all the municipal bylaws. So on September 11th, I was on Airport Boulevard. Airport Boulevard is the only 4-lane road we have in town. And there's what we call a mid-block light. Kid presses the button, light turns red, and they cross the road because they got to get to Gander Academy. There's 1,000 kids go to that school, so sometimes in the morning that crosswalk would get busy. And it was the beginning of the school year. So you can imagine now, all over the summer, people are not used to that light being activated, and now all of a sudden it is. So having the police car sitting there, running the radar, and watching the mid-block light, you know, vehicles would stop. And so I was just sitting there running my radar. And as in the play for Come From Away, I'm sitting there and I look over to my right towards Airport Boulevard, and Bonnie's there, and she's in her vehicle and she is waving at me like this, trying to get my attention, because I was more concentrated down the street, and it just so happened that I just caught a glimpse of her on the side, and she was yelling at me to turn on my radio. And I kind of looked at her, you know, what is she saying? So she pulled in alongside of me and she said, "Os, turn on your radio." No, I had turned down my police radio. So I wasn't, so that's what I thought she meant. So I started to go down to turn up the police radio. She said, "No, turn on your radio. Turn to CBC." So I turned it to CBC, and that's when I heard about the plane hitting the building. And I'm going, oh my God. And then of course they talked about the second one and the second tower. So then it hit me that there's something going on in the States. Now, first off, in my mind, back in the 30s, Orson Welles done this thing, A War of the Worlds, and the Martians are landing, and I was thinking that this was some radio disc jockey down the States who wanted to make a name for himself, so he did this, you know, and so I wasn't in a total panic at that point. I said, I got to check this out. So I went home first, turned on the TV, and when I seen it, I go, oh my God, you know, because what I looked at is Gander has an international airport, and we have some of the biggest runways in the world. All right, and our air traffic control center controls so many flights going back and forth from Europe. So how is this going to affect us? What is going to happen? Was all the questions that I had in my mind. You know, how is Gander going to be affected? Is Gander going to be affected? Is Canada going to be affected? So when I went to the RCMP detachment and I asked them, they said, look, all we know is that we've been instructed to get officers in from all the outlying detachments. And the outlying detachments was like Lewisporte and 28 and New West Valley, Carmenville, and Glovertown. Now I think maybe even Grand Falls and Clarenville was called too. I can't remember if they were there or not. But they said, for you, what we want you to do is continue what you were doing. Patrol the town. All right? If any minor calls come in, then you're going to have to deal with them. Anything major, then they will have to deal with them, and they will have to take someone. So I said, okay. And then what happened then? So I'm just driving around town, and I'm not paying attention to the skies, because I'm all over 10. Next thing you know, I get a call on the radio. You need to get up and back at the airport. There's a road, circular road they call it. It's up and back at the airport. Get up there now. So when I went up there, oh my God, I couldn't believe the number of people and vehicles. There was I'd say there was 1,000 vehicles up there. And they were all up against the fence, and people were climbing on the fence, and a Rogers cable van was there, drove right into the fence, and the fellow was up on the roof of the van with a camera. So I drove down further to see what was going on and try and clear up some of the traffic, and I got right by the runway, the north-south runway. And I kind of stopped, I got out of the vehicle, and I looked to my left, and here was a jumbo jet coming in. She landed. And then I looked again, and I could see it was one smaller than the jumbo. It was now 1011. She was coming in, and she landed. And then a few minutes later, there was another one coming in, and it was landing. And then I was looking through the skyline, and you could see the lights of the planes. They were stacked up. And what they were doing was circling the town and coming in and landing. And that's when it really told me there's something going on. And that's when we were advised that the U.S. airspace had been, the airspace period had been shut down. So no flights were moving. Everything had to find an airport to land to, and that's what I did my first day, pretty well close to it. What they had us do was we were to work 12-hour shifts. We had, of course, there's only two of us. So that's what I was doing, but I stayed on. I stayed on with the other member, Paul, and it was around 6 o'clock in the evening, 5 to 6. As a matter of fact, it was 5 to 6. Strange how you remember that, out of everything. But it was 5 to 6. We drove into Gander Academy. The principal was out on the front step. Asked him how he was doing. Not bad. Just got the phone call to expect passengers. When? We're not sure. But we got to get the school ready. And a lot of people don't realize that that school had 1,000 kids going to it. So we had 1,000 desks. You had to clean a school that size. So he said, I made 2 phone calls. One to the vice principal and one to a teacher to try and get some volunteers. And then we're going to do it. So we said, okay, good luck with that. And we went on. But we found that this was happening all over town. Again, Collegiate St. Paul's, College of North Atlantic, all these places have been contacted and told to expect. So about 3 hours later, it was around 9:15, 9:20, we drove by Fraser Road, Gander Academy again. The principal's out on the front step again. And when we go in, so what happened? You didn't get anybody? Oh no, he said, everything is done. Everything is done. All the chairs are moved, the classrooms are clean, the mats are set up. We're waiting for passengers. That's all we're waiting for now, is passengers. So that's, that was happening everywhere. And I know that it took a while, because in the play it talks about 28 hours on a flight, and that's from where the flight originated until they got off. Because they had to check every flight. I know that the next day you'd be driving around town, and there'd be pickup trucks backed into houses, and if someone had a son or a daughter that went to university, well, they lost their mattress and their blankets and their pillows and everything else, because it all went into the pan of the pickup trucks. Anything that someone could lie on was into the pickup truck, and it was gone to whatever place that they were delivering it to. It could be a school, could be could be anything, and so that was going on the whole day. All through that day, this is what was going on, and people started to arrive at the different schools. Now, what they asked me to do, what the town said, look, is these people are now afraid. They don't know what's going on. They're in fear because they don't know who. Look, where you're from. If someone said Gander, Newfoundland, and Labrador, you would have looked at it and said, what is that? Is that a kind of a chocolate food or something? So people were coming off of these planes having no idea where they were. So there was, and then they were getting rumors of attack in the United States. They were getting rumors of different things, but no one really knew until they saw the TV. So coming off the flights, they were afraid. So what they were saying for the town police to do was to drive around and go into every one of these spots, park the police vehicle out front, go inside in uniform, talk to people, reassure them that everything was okay and they were in a friendly place. And that was what the job that was assigned us. So, and that's what we did. So, you know, I was going into the different schools, driving around. You know, I went to the Elks Club and the Lions Club and the Legion and Collegiate and College North Atlantic, St. Paul's, all the churches took people. So you can imagine, what's, and then during that time, of course, it was mentioned about the bus drivers being on strike. And they were on strike, but they put down their signs and they went and they took the passengers to the different locations. And of course, in Gander, back then our population was 9,000, just a little over 9,000. We had 7,000 people drop in. So you can imagine the logistics. And one of the things we always talk about, we make fun at, I suppose in one sense, is you have a disaster plan. If there's a fuel spill, you do this. If you have a major accident, you do this. If you have a forest fire, you do this. But there's nothing in a disaster plan that says you got 7,000 people dropping in for a bucket of tea and a bicky. So now take care of them for 5 days. There's nothing there. So we flew on the seat of our pants. People, I mean, as an idea popped into the head, that was it. It was done. And you know, up at the airport, the Red Cross was the one that was taking care of people as they were going through. They were recording them and you know, each flight, and of course the RCMP were there, and Border Services were there, and they had a doctor and a pharmacist there, because people coming off flights. I know that one of the local drugstores got a call, because you imagine now, you're not allowed to smoke on a plane. And you had smokers on the plane. And they've been on the plane for hours. So the nicotine patches, they had to go on the planes and administer nicotine patches, because people were getting a little, you know, sort of the withdrawals. So everything was thought of. So once, you know, the bus drivers, they come up, then of course, now we got to get them to the bus took them to the schools. Schools were already set up, but now we have to feed them. Now we have to have like the deodorants and the toothbrush and the toothpaste and all the things that are needed. Because back then, very few people had overhead, you know, had carry-on luggage. So if you flew here today, dressed like that, and nothing, your luggage is in the belly of the plane, and you're going to be here for 5 days? See, imagine the problem that so, I mean, like our Shoppers Drug Mart stepped up, so did Brian's Pharmacy, so did, you know, other places. In the play, I know it talks about Shoppers Drug Mart, but Shoppers is like the representative of the other drugstores. So they were cleaned out. Anything that a person might want or need was just come and get it. And I know that with O'Brien's Pharmacy, Mrs. O'Brien, she said that her husband was doing the medicines, because if you were from Uzbekistan and you had heart medication, but it was all gone because you've been longer on the flight than what you expected to be. Now you have a prescription. Now most people don't understand Newfie. Imagine what when you're looking at this bottle and you're seeing directions and you're seeing this type of medication, you have no idea what it is. So you had to phone over and find a drugstore and then try and get interpretation, get someone to interpret this medication to someone over there, and then you had to figure out the medication that's over there, what medication suits it over here. So it was a massive job, and these druggists, especially Kevin O'Brien, he was up all night doing this because there was an awful lot of people that need their medication. So, these were and people didn't pay for anything. I mean, this was not, all right, your heart medication costs $40, $50, pay. It was here, see you later. And that's what it was. And then, the food aspect of it. I know there's a lot of talk about the food aspect of it. They put the Salvation Army in charge of food. And I always make the fun of Salvation Army in Newfoundland. They all love to eat. So the best people to put in charge of food is people who like to eat. But it was them. They were the ones because they had the experience with it. And they were the ones that came up with the idea of using our community center as the largest walk-in freezer in Canada or in North America. So if you bake buns, bread, you bake anything, a casserole, then you brought it to the community center. But then, of course, it's the distribution aspect of it. So what would happen then is if Gander Collegiate would call up and say, okay, I got 400 passengers here, I need this item, this item, this item, this item, this item for 400. Well, then the Salvation Army would collect it up and have it delivered to the school. Like the community center was the hub. And so they would do all this stuff. And then Rogers Cable. I don't know if you've interviewed Brian Mosier yet or not.
Yes.
All right. Brian was the key focal point, I suppose, during that point. Because if there was something that someone needed at one of the schools that it wasn't food, but it was something else, then it would go to Brian, and Brian would announce it and say, okay, we have, well, in the case of Gander Collegiate, there's a couple up there have never eaten bottled moose. Now, if there's anybody in town that got some spare moose, can you bring it up? And within a half an hour, people were eating moose. And that's the type of thing. And in the play, it talks about the toilet paper issue, toilet paper at the Lions Club. Or really, it wasn't the Lions Club, it was Gander Academy. Because I was there when the call went out. We have a problem at Gander Academy. There's 800 passengers, and we're running short on toilet paper. If you've got any, if you're downtown, and it's not, can you buy a couple of packs and drop it off at the school? And then 3 hours later, it was, for God's sake, don't bring any more toilet paper to Gander Academy because the classroom is full and we don't know where else to put it. And that is true. People weren't buying packs, they were buying cases. So, that's the type of thing that was going on during that time. Then I remember, and they had them at every school where some people wanted to volunteer, but they had enough volunteers for delivering the food or this. So they were taxis, for lack of a better word. So they would go up and park in front of the school, and if there was a passenger who said, I'd like to be able to go to Walmart, then they took them. Because we only had a few taxis here in town, so they were flat out, and there was no way with 7,000 people in town that they were going to be able to handle it anyway. So that's what was happening. And there was people at all the different places, and that's what they were doing. And then you would think where, think of high school students, no? Think of high school students. Oh, geez, I got a week off from school. I'm going to sleep in. I'm not going to go at that stuff. But if you see the videos, like from Gander Collegiate, from Rogers Cable, because they would go up and film some of it, you see students of all ages and all sizes. They were all up there. And they were cleaning, and they were passing out food. And they were doing all the things that parents were doing. And everybody, they volunteered. Everybody that could volunteer was there. They were there. So, you know, it was, and that's what was going on. One of the things I consider like it was like a godsend for us was the weather. Normally in September we don't have that good of weather. But it was nice and sunny for 5 days. It was really nice out there. And that helped because people were able to get out and walk around. Can you imagine if you were stuck in a gymnasium for 5 days because it poured like it poured here the other day? You know, people would go batty. But we were lucky enough, and I always said the Lord was shining on us to have that type of weather for us. And so everybody was, you could see people out walking around all over town. And it used to be so funny. Fellow be walking along, car come up along. Would you like a ride? No, no, I'm just out for a walk. Off he goes. 2 or 3 steps later, car comes by. Would you like a ride? No, 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 I'm just out for a walk. See you later. You know, so far this is, would you like a ride? And that's what it was. People were, I used to feel sorry for them. I used to feel for, you know, because they'd want to go out for a walk. And that's what was happening. And you know, I'm laughing at it now because I suppose it's been 16, 17 years, but some of the stuff that was going on, it was funny. It was, you know, and what I meant by funny was like the guy from, in the play it talks about, welcome to Walmart, would you like to come home shower with me? And, and in actual fact, that is true. And what I mean by actual fact, what it was is a fellow comes up to me and he goes, "You guys are nuts." I'm in the community center saying that. What? He said, "You guys are nuts." I go, I start to laugh. I said, "Why?" And he said, "I was at Walmart going through the cash. And he said, the girl that was there asked me if I was one of the plain people, because that's what we call them, plain people." And he said, "Yeah." She said, "Would you like a shower?" He said, "I would love a shower. Is there anybody with you?" My 4 buddies, my other 3 buddies over there. "Okay, just a second now. Boss, can I take these?" "Sure." "Okay, come on with me." Off they go. Gets in her car, drives to her house. She said, "The shower's here, towels are here, kitchen, look, all kinds of food. Help yourself. You want to go lie down? Go lie down. Want to watch TV? There. Okay, see you later. I'm going back to work." And he said, he stopped and looked at her and said, "You crazy? We could steal everything we've got. You would never know. There's 7,000 of us. You'd never be able to pick us out because you met us here for a minute." And her comment was, "Well, so it can be replaced." And that blew him away. He's from the States, and that blew him away. He said that would not happen in the town that I'm from. I like to think, I truly like to think that yes, it would. I really would like to think that. I would hope that would happen. And you know, like people say, well, it's Newfoundland, but it would happen anywhere on this island. I mean, it probably would happen in St. John's River Plains and Stephenville and in Goose Bay. I mean, people were taken care of. Halifax, they were taken care of, you know, places like that. I think what drew the attention to Gander was that we had 9,000 people, we had 7,000 drop in, we only had 500 hotel rooms. So what do you do with 6,500 other people? And what they did, and I left this out, I forgot about it, was they decided to put all the flight crews in the hotel rooms. That way they have them close by. So if your flight is going to take off, once the permission comes for the flights to leave, then it was just a matter of contacting the Albatross. Okay, can you make sure you get a hold of Captain So-so and her crew and let them know that they're going to be leaving within the hour? Can they get together, come up? Of course, there's prep that has to be done for the plane to get it ready. So that's what, so they decided not to put them out in other outlying communities of Glenwood and Appleton, Lewisporte, Norris Arm, or Gambo. They decided to keep them here in town in the hotel rooms, which was a brilliant idea. There's so many stories that go on. I don't know, Lisa, did Lisa talk to you about the Wish Kids?
Yes.
Yes.
But you can tell us more.
No, it was just that with the Wish Kids. Now, and what we meant by that was Virgin Airlines. I believe the plane was. They were out of London. There was 40 or 50 Wish Kids, and there were so many of them. It was their birthday. Now, look, I had been going into that school. I don't know how many times over the 5 days. Because I was like the bouncy ball. I went boom, 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 just going around to the different places. And you pull in, you go in, say hi, talk to the kids, talk to the parents, walk around, see if there's anything I can do for the volunteers, go on to the next school. And that's what I was doing the whole day. And then I get this phone call from Kelly Sevier. Now we like to call Kelly Sevier Kelly Savior, because Kelly is she's very good at her job. She's amazing at her job. And so she calls me up. She says, Oz, did you know that there's these Wish Kids at St. Paul's? And I was floored. I didn't know. And, and I felt kind of bad because I didn't know. And she said, yes. And did you know that there's some of them, it's their birthday? And I believe it was 6 of them. It was their birthday, and her wish was to go to Disney World. Oh my, because, and they were already supposed to have been down there, but they were supposed to go to Disney World. And I wanted to throw a birthday party for those 6, but I got turned down. And I said, why? Well, there's 44 other kids, and you're singling out 6. So I thought for a minute, and then I said, well, because I'm one of those ones that's always in trouble anyway. So I will make a decision, and the heat comes down, no big deal. I got broad shoulders, I don't care. And so in this situation, I said, well, forget it. What we'll do is we'll have a birthday party for 350, because that's how many people were at the school. Passengers, 350. So I said, that's what we're going to do. So Kelly said, okay. So between the Driggs and the Reels, between us all, like I got Lisa to dress up as Commander Gander. And I got the RCMP Bear. And, so by the time we finished going around, we had the Commander Gander, the RCMP Bear, we had 2 mom pop bears from the co-op. The co-op gave us the birthday cake for 350. And did Lisa show you the picture?
Yes.
That's the proof. It's a nice picture. And you've seen the part of the cake that's there. Well, that's stretched all the way down the table. You only seen one piece. But that all went down the table.
How long was it?
8 feet, 12 feet long or something.
Wow.
Because they had to do them in sections. See? So, it was, it was full. Well, we put 2 of these tables together like that, and it went all the way down. There's 2 tables. So, we had balloons, clowns, I believe, and I still said we did. Mary Brown's Chicken was there. Anybody that had a mascot, we tried to get. And because you've got to think, now down in Disney World, what is it down there? It's all mascots, right? There's Goofy and, and Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and all that stuff. And then, of course, 4 girls from Lisa's class. Now, she can explain it better than I can, because I'm not sure what type of fairy tale princess style birthday party that they have down in Florida. But that's what these young girls wanted. And I might add, I believe there was 3 or 4 of them that were terminal. And so she wanted this type of party. So there was 4 young girls from Lisa's class that had these gowns. So they went home and put on their gowns and made the wands and done all the things that needed to be done. And they came to the school and they told the young girls that Tinkerbell had contacted them. Because, you know, that Tinkerbell was aware that they couldn't make it, so she sent them on behalf of her, which was unbelievable, unbelievable. And so we had the party, and we were having a good time. And then, of course, the announcement came that their flight would probably be leaving, so they had to get ready to go. And as I was leaving, this guy calls me over and he says, my daughter is one of the kids that she's terminal. And he said she was so looking forward to going to Disney World for this birthday party with Tinkerbell. And he said, I got to tell you something. And I said, what's that? He said, it's okay. I said, it's okay. She's had that good of a time here. She's enjoyed herself so much here that it's okay. She's happy. If she don't go, it's fine. So I want you to tell everybody that it's okay. And I spent 38 years in enforcement, and I almost bawled my eyes out, so I had to leave quick. And I did, because I didn't know what do you say to something like that? What do you say to a father that's, and they were so looking forward to it, but he turns around and says, they're stuck in a school with 350 other people and all the volunteers, but their child had such a good time, that it was okay. They didn't care if they went to Disney World or not. Now, I do believe afterwards I was told, yes, they went. But we were also told that the time in which they should have been down there, it rained for 4 days. So, again, there's some special, forces or special that was involved here, because, I mean, my God, it was, but that's what we were dealing with. I remember another time going into Gander Collegiate. I walk inside the door, and there's this fella there. A little fella, he's, I'd say 7 or 8 years old, and he's lying on the floor, right dead center, lying on the floor, and he's crying. And I could understand it. I mean, when I walked in, I looked at him and I felt so. So our police crest, our shoulder flash, as we call them, it's Municipal Police Gander, and it's got the map of Newfoundland, Labrador on top of the Canadian flag. So, and if you check any municipal police across the province, that's the way it is. We're all the same. So I walk in, and well, I should step back a little bit. People laugh at me when I tell them this. There's only 2 of us. Now remember, there's only 2 of us. So I had to buy some crests, because I was like the officer in charge, so I was senior constable. And I had to order some new ones. And if you bought 50, you were paying $15. But if you bought 244, you paid $2.98. So I bought 244, not 50. So I had 244, and on that day was when the 244 arrived, so I had them out in the police vehicle. Now I took some of them, back then we were wearing cargo pants, so I had some in my cargo pants. So I walk into school, and here's this little fella, he's on the floor and he's crying. So I walk over and I kneel down alongside of him. I said, come here. So he comes over and I said, look, I said, when you get to be an old fart like me, and you're sitting in front of the TV, and 9/11 will come on, because this will go down. This will be they will remember this for the end of time. I said, you'll be sitting there and your grandkids will be on both sides of you. And you're watching this. You'll be able to take this crest out and show them and say, look, I was there. I was there in Gander. And he stopped crying and he kind of smiled and he took the crest and he ran over to his father and he showed his father. It just so happens that his father was talking to a group of people. So they all come over looking for a crest. So by the time I really got out of the school, I had 244 crests give away. I never had a one left. I had to go home and rip crests off my old uniforms to get some because I had to give them all away. We even had ball caps with Municipal Police Gander on them. And I had just gotten them too, 25 of them. I normally bought 50 because in the summertime you wear them in sweat and so you didn't want to have a dirty hat. So you always give a couple away because people were looking for them. And I gave my 25 away. So I lost everything that day, giving away to the, but you had to. You had to give them something. It was, to understand a Newfoundland or Labradorian, he likes to give. He likes to give. You know, if he's got something and you need it, he gives it. He don't sell it. In a lot of situations, he don't sell it. But that's the kind of stuff that was going on during that time. There's so many stories. Like in the play, it talks about Kevin Turret, and he's talking about the weight that he put on, and it just, you know how it is. It just strikes you. And I remember it just bang, because I was over at Gander Collegiate, and I was walking to walk over to the College of the North Atlantic, and I remember this man coming out, and he's going like this. And he's saying something like he's got to take out another loop on his belt because he's put on so much weight. And this was Kevin T. This was Kevin Turret. And I remember because he talks about the fact that he came out of school and he said this, and he said it to me, that he had put on 5 pounds plus, and he had just come from Paris. He was over there. And he said, you know, a lot of the best chefs in the world are over there. But he certainly enjoyed the food that was being cooked at the college. Because they had cooking classes at that time. They had that Cordon Bleu or whatever it is. And so he said, the food that they're cooking in there is truly amazing. But that was going on everywhere. That was going on everywhere. And I forgot about the SPCA. I know that you're going to talk to Bonnie. Maybe I should leave that for Bonnie. But it was Bonnie who called me and said, Oz, and this was on day 2. This was around, I think it was 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. She said, Oz, all those planes that are up there, there's got to be animals on those planes. And I kind of fell back in my seat. I says, my Jesus, Bonnie, I never thought of that. And you're right, there's got to be some. People carry them with them. And when I called up to the airport, they turned around and said, well, look, we have 30 planes, we have 7,000 passengers that we have to process, we have luggage that we have to go through. Well, there's so many things that we have to do. Do you really think we have time to check and see if there's animals on the plane? And Bonnie, being Bonnie, she's like the pit bull. When she bites, she locks on. She won't let go until she gets her answer. Or she gets what she wants. And she called Doug Tweedy here, he's our local provincial vet, who called his boss in St. John's, who called out to Gander, who called the SPCA and said, come up. So they went up and went through the bellies of the planes, and they found 17 animals and 2 rare bonobo chimpanzees. Now, I guess Bonnie would probably tell the rest with what they were doing when they were up there, because it's best coming from her. But it was, and that's what was going on here. You know, I remember my daughter Lisa was working at Greco Pizza there, And this gentleman walks in and he orders just one of the little small pizzas that was only $6 or $7 at the time. And he paid with a $10 American. So this will give you an indication of what was going on here. Paid with a $10 American. So, you know, back then I think the Canadian dollar was worth 68 cents. Something like that, 65 cents or something. So you're trying to figure out in your mind the difference for his change. And he looks at me and he goes, "Please, sir, tell her to keep the change. I've been trying to spend some money in this town since I got here, and no one will let me." So that's an indication of what was going on here. People were going to restaurants and leaving massive tips because they wanted to spend money. Everything that they needed, they wanted, was supplied. The rabbi, they talk about, he's in Appleton. I mean, only eating kosher food. No one knew until he realized he wasn't eating. So in the beginning, there was a chef at the hotel here, and they used to drive out and get his food and go back. But then they set up a kitchen for him. You know, that type of thing. Once the problem was identified, there was a solution immediately. When you think back of all the things that was done, you kind of smile and then you laugh a little because you realize, you know, what was done was truly amazing. You know, we've had visits from federal government and other governments. How did you do it? Well, you know, how do you answer that? You know, if you were here and then turn around, how do you answer it? You did it by the seat of your pants. You did it the way you were taught to do it. I was asked a number of times. You know, but see, you got to remember, and I would say this is anywhere across the country. When you were standing up in front of that TV and you were watching those planes going into that building, and you're watching those buildings come down, your heart just sank. You were just so, I don't know, it was numb. So, I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this and I cannot believe that this is happening. And the first responder in me is thinking about the people that are down there. And I would love to be able to go there and help. What can I do? And I would say that most Canadians, especially Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, were sitting there watching that and saying, I wish I could do something. Can I do something? But all of a sudden, like for us, and St. John's against Stephenville and Goose Bay and Halifax and all of a sudden, 38 planes have landed and here's 7,000 people. So your first reaction is put your arms around them. Say, it's okay. We have your back. We're going to take care of you. Don't you worry. And I think that's basically what was done here. Is that the people of this town, this region, this province, this country, that's what they did. New York was now at the airport, in one sense. These people were coming off the planes, and I'm going to tell you, the look that was on their faces haunts me today. The look of total loss, of, you know, it's I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on. You know, and who are these people? You know, what's going on? And then to stand in front of a TV, especially if you're from New York or anywhere in the States, to stand there, and I remember the look on the faces of because I was there when one group of passengers seen the TV for the first time, and the look that was on their faces was just, oh my God. And then in the play, you hear that word, you hear that, and that haunts me today, because you could hear that from those passengers when they're looking at, going, you know, and of course this look. And then of course there was people that were from New York and they had family in New York. And the panic there. I met Anna O'Rourke. You haven't had a chance to meet her. She's a lot like Beulah. She is, we call her Beulah Cooper, she's in the play. We call her mother. And because Beulah has a heart of gold. Beulah is what we call a Newfoundland or Labradorian. She has that type of heart, right? And that's what we call her, you know, mom. But Anna's the same way. Anna and Beulah must have been cut from the same cloth, because the two of them, and that poor lady was going around for 5 days in this town, not knowing what was going on with her son, who was a firefighter. And he did lose his life. He did not make it. And I mean, that's the hardest. Every time you met up with her, every time you seen her, your heart was just, you just ached, because you knew, well, you had no idea, you could only think you knew what she was going through. And you tried to help her as much as you can, and that's where Beulah came in. Beulah's, again, is the mother. And so Beulah was the one that, and they still have a lifelong friendship. Oh, I want to give also some credit to, not credit, but when it came to helping and everything else, you know, I know everything is centered around Gander. But of course, again, there's Glenwood, Appleton, Lewisporte, Norris Arm, Gambo. But all the outlying areas was also helping. I was at Gander Academy. I'd drive up, Paul Matheson, the other members with me, and when we pull in, there's these vans that are there, and it's from the New West Valley Fire Department. And the mayor of New West Valley is there, and she's offloading blankets and pillows and passing off to people, and they're running into the schools with them. And she comes over because she knows Paul. Paul was a retired RCMP member, and he policed out there. So she knew him. And she proceeds to tell us that there's ladies going to stay up all night and bake breads and buns and make the toutons and pies, so that when the passengers get up in the morning time, they're going to have fresh bread and fresh buns and fresh pies. And that's what was happening. They stayed up all night, they baked it, and their fire department personnel brought it in. So it's, when it came out of the oven, it was in the vehicles were in. In the play, it talks about, I woke up and I to the smell of fresh bread. And that's what it was. But that was happening here. Two people were baking and bringing stuff, and you name it. Now, have I talked enough?
I think have time. Maybe you could also mention the 10th anniversary, when the people started coming back. Yeah, that was, you know, of course we've marked the 10th anniversary, and that's when David and Irene showed up. You know, we had some of the passengers wanted to give back, so they had like a breakfast up at our community center, and that's where I meet these two young people, David and Irene. And they tell me, well, you know what we're going to do? And I said, what's that? We're going to write a play about Gander in 9/11, and it's going to be a musical. And I thought, well, yeah, right. And that's what it was. I thought they were crazy. I thought it was, you know, this is going to end up at, you know, like file 13 in some college up in Ontario, that no one would even look at it. So they interviewed me, and one of the stories I told them was STFD. I did not think that they were going to put that into play, because I was doing that for 2 years before. But you know, I was thinking that they, you know, I told them some things that had gone on there during 9/11.
But with the STFD, I did not think that they were going to put that in there, but they did. And just for information, being a local person, right? I was born in Lewisporte, but I pretty well grew up in Gander. And of course, I'm policing in Gander, and I know a lot of the young people. I know a lot of them. They all knew me. I coached volleyball, or not volleyball, I did coach volleyball for a year, but I coached basketball for 25 years at St. Paul's and Gander Collegiate. And all girls teams all the time, because the girls teams were always the ones that never got anything, right? They never got to go on the big trips. Now when Oz took over, they went to Corner Brook and St. John's, and they even went to New York. I even took girls basketball team to New York. So when they got their driver's license, right? So most people, kid gets the driver's license. I am it now. I don't need mom, dad. I just need the car. Of course, I need gas, but I don't need. I'm independent now. I'm an adult now. I can drive a car. I can go where I want to go. So, first week they get their license. Right? First week is 10 to 2 on the wheel. Right? Radio's not very loud. They're driving 40 kilometers an hour in town. Most times there's nobody in the car with them. By the second week, of course, the seat's back a little bit further. There's one hand on the wheel. The gas pedal is closer to the floor. The radio's up a little bit louder, and they got a couple of people in the car with them. Now, by the third week, the seat's right back. And their hand is hanging over the steering wheel. The gas pedal is a lot closer to the floor. The radio's blasting, and the car is full. Now, there's nothing worse to take the wind out of your sails than to have the red and blue lights come on behind you. So, and then, of course, when that happens, the first thing that's going through their mind is mom and dad are going to kill me. Mom's going to kill me. Dad's going to take the car. I'm going to be 90 years old before I can drive again. You know, I'm done. Oh my. And, of course, even though they may know me, they're still, oh my God. You know. So I used to play the part, see? And in the old movies I used to watch in the 70s and 80s, you'd have this big chubby, and as you can see, I fit the bill, Texas sheriff, that when he opens up the car door, he pushes it with his foot. So I'd push the door with my foot, and I'd get out, and I'd slam the car door, and I'd walk up, and I'd say, give me your driver's license, registration, insurance. I'd sound like I was mad at them, see? And they're shaking, and some are crying, and they're blood red in the face, and everybody in the car is not saying a word. And I'll say, do you know why I stopped you? Well, some would say no, and I'd say, yeah, give me a break. And I'd snatch the thing. Now I'm wearing my forge cap, which I never ever wear. Normally I don't wear it in the car, and I don't wear it when I go out. But when I see it's a young person, I put it on, because when you got it on, all right, I can see your eyes, but you can't see mine. So you don't know what I'm up to. See, so that's what even when I'm in the car, I go back to the car and slam the door. Now it usually takes me 4 minutes to write a ticket. Most officers is around 4 minutes. I usually took 14 minutes because I knew that they'd be steaming, they'd be shaking and everything up in the car, because you got to teach them a lesson. So I go up there and I take my time and I, kind of look up like that, and I could see in the rear view mirror of their car, they have faces blood red and there's tears coming down. Oh my God. So I take it. Now when I got to the charge section, I just wrote STFD, and then I finish out the ticket and sign it, and then I walk up and I give them back the papers and I go, here. And you see them with the ticket, they're shaking, and how much is this? I'd say, well, I don't know. You tell me. They stop shaking. And they're looking. They look at me. They look at me. What does STFD mean? And I'd go, I don't know. You tell me. Because I won't swear in front of kids, see? And guaranteed there's one in the car. The joker. He's the smart one. Right? He knows. So you see the hand going up. And I go, yes. And he'd say, I know what it is. And I'd say, what is it? Slow the fuck down. And I'd go, yes. And I'd point to the driver. And I'd walk back to the car and I'd go on. And I know that a lot of parents called me and said that was the best lesson my son, my daughter ever learned. Because normally the ticket would have cost them $345 and 4 points. And as a new driver, you only get 6. Right? And to get a ticket like that, your insurance company would love you for 5 years. And I just wanted them to teach them a lesson that, for every action there's a reaction. So if you're going to do 75 in a 40-kilometer zone, this is what's going to happen. But without really costing you. And it used to work. The only problem was about 2 years after that, most of the time you stop and go, can I have an STFD? Can I have one? Can I have one? And I'd say, well, no. So I had to switch gears a little bit. But that's what I told David and Irene during the 10th anniversary, but they went on into play. So now, T-shirts. We were down in New York and some fellow wanted to meet Oswald Fudge. And, because how many Oswald Fudges do you know? One. That's it. How many Davids, how many, Smiths are there in the world? But how many Oswald Fudges are there in the world? One. And so we're talking, and he makes a comment, something along the lines of, about you should do something with that name. And through the jigs and the reels, my son was there too, Jamie, and Lisa was there. Through the jigs and the reels, they come up with this idea of a T-shirt. So when they got back here, the design, they designed this, and you can see the badge says Old Fudge, and up here in the hat badge is YQX for Gander. And of course then they got they couldn't do all the, but that's what the design that they came up with. And they're selling quite well. Now, one of the things that she does, she gives money to SPCA. She got to keep so much of it to order new stock. But she's been giving money to the SPCA from the selling of the T-shirts because they're building no building. So, which is great. But during the 10th anniversary, that was what I mentioned New York and taking a basketball team there. What that was, every now and then I get a phone call. This would be someone from the States. I just read the book The Day the World Came to Town. And I see your name is in it, and I want to thank you, and so on. And this night, I get a phone call, and it's from a teacher, Bethpage High School, Bethpage, New York, Mike Finster. And Mike and I got talking, and he's a gym teacher. And I said, I'm coaching the girls' basketball team, and I don't know if it was him or me, he said, it's too bad, we couldn't come down and play. And then it struck me, well, maybe we should. So we decided we would. They had this dad's tournament at the end of December, somewhere around, it's during the Christmas holidays, they have this tournament, they call it Dad's Tournament down there. And from September till December, I needed to raise $19,000 to pay for all the flights and everything. And I ended up with $23,000. So we flew down to New York, and Mike treated us like gold. We played in the tournament. Now what had happened, we ran into a snowstorm. Well, an American-style snowstorm. They don't know what snowstorm is in New York. But they ran into a snowstorm, and we got delayed in Toronto. So we were all tired and everything else. We went down there, we tried to play, but the girls were extremely tired. And but we were treated like gold. Mike Finster and the girls and everything, they treated us like gold. And I invited them back up here, and they came up for the 15th anniversary. Mike went to Steele. Mike was, I tell him, you know, because he was asking me how I did this with raising so much money. And I said, well, what I do is I'll go look for something, but I won't go to one place. I'll go looking to a dozen places. So out of the dozen, I might get 6 of them that'll give me something. And so that's what he did. He went to the Port Authority, explained to them what he wanted to do and about Gander, and showed them the book. And they were touched by it, so they gave him steel. But he had also gone to Bethpage Fire Department, and they had a half a dozen pieces of steel outside their yard. And they ended up saying, well, yes, we're going to give him this piece. And that's the piece that you've seen out there. And they shipped it up for the 15th anniversary, or the 10th anniversary? Or was it the 15th? 10th. And Mike brought up 6 of his students, young girls and boys. He brought up 6, and they unveiled it for us at the ceremony as a presentation to the town. So that's where that steel came from. Now jumping ahead to the 15th anniversary, we had a crowd come up from New York. And what it was that they have a museum down there, and they have like a tribute center. And the tribute center, what that is that's survivors of 9/11, and they have displays and everything else, and they tell their stories as to what they were doing, what happened to them, and everything else. It's a great healing process when you start telling people what you've gone through. So they had found out about the book, but they also found out about the play, and they wanted to come to Gander. So they called it the Tour of Gratitude, and I think there was like 14 or 16 of them that showed up here. And I got to meet all of them, but 2 that stood out, well 4, was the 2 New York City police officers and their wives. Joe and Sonia Joe was the police officer, Sonia was an EMT. So I got to meet with them, and they proceeded to tell me what they had gone through. And I think, you know, in the emergency services field now, I never would even compare myself to a New York City police officer. But going to a lot of MVCs and seeing stuff, you knew what he was going through. You know, over the years I have seen quite a bit. Because here in Gander, one of our duties also is we go with the fire department on any MVC, which is motor vehicle crash, and some were horrific. So I kind of had some idea what Joe was going through. Joe, it was his birthday. September 11th was his birthday. Yeah. And he said he was home preparing for his birthday. He had the day off. His wife was out of town getting stuff for his birthday party when this call comes in. And everybody had to report. And she, being an EMT, she had to report. So they had to go down there. And Paul was saying, Paul was the other member, the other New York City police officer, that when you're on your way to a scene, and I know exactly what he's talking about, when you're on your way to a scene, you're going to try and save. There's a life that needs to be saved. But they go down there, and there's no lives to be saved. Everybody's gone. The buildings have come down. So that alone was horrific, hard. But then they supplied masks for people when they go down, but it was the wrong ones. And for 3 weeks, until they discovered their mistake, they were all breathing in this asbestos, whatever was in that building. They were breathing this stuff in. And a little side note, there's been more people lost to cancer-related illnesses up to today than what was lost on that one day. People have died of cancer. The count now is over 3,000 people have died of cancer from 9/11. You imagine? And that's what they were facing. And then they had to, Paul or Joe was telling me that for 6 months they were down there. They had to work 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week for 6 months. And during that period of time, they wore out 3 brand new pairs of shoes. The ground was that hot, it was melting the soles of their shoes. And that's what they had to go through. And Sonia, his wife, Joe's wife, she was saying that Joe never celebrates his birthday. Never celebrates his birthday. And of course, she tells us it's his birthday. So, you know, the Newfoundland part of me kicks in and we throw him a birthday party. But she's saying that you could tell as it got closer to Joe's birthday when he was home, because his state of mind, he used to go into he'd sink right in. Because, I mean, you know, your birthday, 3,000 people die. You were down there. There was nothing that you could do, but you were there. And she said he used to get real bad. He used to get real bad. But now the play and the book is like a healing process for him. It's helping him to heal. It's helping him to, well, we did have a birthday party for him, we had a cake for him, we had an opera singer, Robert Pilon, sing happy birthday to him, because Robert, they had this special event on the go at the Arts and Culture Center, and he came down to sing at it. And he also sang at the 10th anniversary, or the 15th anniversary. He sang. What a voice. Unbelievable. But he sang happy birthday to Joe. And his wife said that's the first time in 15 years that Joe celebrated his birthday. So that's, you know, so that was quite, you know, make the cockles of your heart feel good, as my mother used to say. And then, of course, after the 15th anniversary, this year, the following year, the play was coming. Now, you've been in, I don't know if you've been in Newfoundland, Labrador long enough to know how Newfoundlanders think. Now, it may be a hard job, but one of the things, you know, we don't mind telling jokes, we make fun of ourselves, we make fun of everybody else, we, you know, if we insult you, it means we like you. It's not like we hate you, but I may make fun at your shoes. And it's not because, you know, it's just, but we expect you to give back as good as you get. So we have this play coming. Now, in all along, if you've seen anything that's been done that includes a Newfoundlander, Labradorian, how they talk and their actions and their mannerisms is so totally wrong, it borders on insulting. That a mainlander trying to talk like a Newfoundlander, he can't do it. So, you know, and there was a film CBC did on 9/11. It was terrible. I thought it was absolutely ridiculous what they had done. And most people out here thought it was terrible. So we had this play coming. Oh my God. We have a bunch of Americans with a couple of Canadians, but at least we had 2 Newfoundlanders on the play. Katrina Bromley and Romano. So I remember, now I seen the first time and I knew what to expect. The second time we had 2,800 people in the community center. And after the play was over, everybody was so proud. I could hear people say, "Oh my God, they got us. Oh my God." It's us. It's who we are. And I don't mean like Ganderites. I mean like Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, they got who our essence was, who we were. And in their actions and the way they talked on the stage and the way they sang and the way they did everything, it was unbelievable. They nailed it. They got us. I remember, oh, well, of course you wouldn't have been here. You didn't come here, did you? You weren't here long enough during that time. No? Well, you've seen the play. I don't know if you've heard the CD, but I don't know if you heard CD, all right? When they break into that chorus, I'm an Islander, well, you had to be in the community center, but the place went up. People jumped to their feet. They were yelling and screaming and clapping and crying. And the actors up on the stage was laughing and crying. They were crying because they didn't expect this response from us. And as a matter of fact, I was watching something, when was it? 2 days ago. From, the actors were being interviewed by someone down in the States, and they said, what was the highlight of, you're on Broadway. What's the highlight? The highlight is in Gander, when we hit that chorus, I'm an Islander. The feeling that we got, and we cried, because we said we weren't going to cry, but they all did. It was truly an amazing experience to be there. And after it was all over with, I guess a tap on the shoulder, this lady, she says, I wanted to meet you, but I also wanted to tell you something. And I said, okay. She said, I worked in the Pentagon. And my office, she said, had 1 double doors, and I was by the doors, and the plane came in and into my office, and it blew me down the hallway. And she said, I was the only one that survived. I was the only one that survived. Everybody else, all my co-workers, everybody was killed. And she said, I've had to live with this for 15 years, and 16 years. And she said, I hear about this play, a play being written about 9/11. And I thought, oh my God, how could someone be so cruel? And she cried. She told me she bawled and bawled and bawled. How could someone be so cruel? But she was convinced by her daughter to go. And she went. And she said, as you can see, I'm here today. So it tells you what type of effect this play has had on us. She said, I've seen it now. This is number 6 and 7 that I've seen it. And she said, it's healing for me. Because she said, the only thing I could think of during that period of time, really all through my life, was, all these people were killed, tragedy, no one understands, all this stuff, and the world is so mean. And then all of a sudden, she hears and she sees this about what was done here and what was done in, I'm going to say Steve Wilson, because, again, it was only the difference in population is all it was. And she said that it's helping me. I now can sleep, basically, is what she's saying. So she was very thankful. So we've had stories like that all the time. Whenever I meet someone now from the States, they'll say, well, with Gander and all this sort of stuff, but they want to tell me, where they were, what they were doing, and what happened to them. They want to tell you, and you listen. One of the things for being in the enforcement field, that's a key. You've got to listen. And the actors, they talk about it now. As a matter of fact, David mentioned it yesterday in his little talk, that there's that many stories, and some of them are not the best. And but you learn to deal with that. I don't expect an actor or average folk to understand, but in the enforcement field, you listen to it anyway because you've dealt with it or you're in it, you're in there. You're in that vehicle that someone has just been killed. You're lifting the body up out of the ditch. You're doing all these things, so you understand some of the stuff that people have gone through, but that's what there's. They want to tell you what they've done and where they were, and that play has done that for them. And it's such an honor and a privilege to be part of it. I really, people think, well, I'm only in it for this or that. No, I'm in it. It's such an honor and a privilege to be part of it. And I'm hoping that, the play is going to run for a long time, because there's a lot of healing left to be done. And I vowed I wasn't going to bring it up, but the way the political thing is going in the States right now, I think they're crying for something. They're looking for something to hang on to. And I think this play is giving it to them. That love outconquers anything else. And that's what it is. And there it is. The story, the world according to us.
Well, is there anything else you would like to add before we finish the interview?
Just sort of thanking, which is David and Irene and Michael Rubinoff. Michael Rubinoff was the guy that had the idea. It was him. He was the creator, the ideas. And then it was like with David and Irene, they were the talent. They were the ones who wrote this. And what a job they've done. And I don't look at it for myself personally, but I look at it for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Is what they've done for us is just unbelievable. It's amazing, the amount of tourists that are coming here. And this is only the tip of the iceberg, because they are going to make a movie. They're not sure where, and they're, as David says, it really has to be shot in Gander, because this is where the hub is of what went on in this region. And but they have done something for the province. I've always considered Newfoundland and Labrador Canada's best kept secret, because people don't want, Ottawa don't want the rest of the country to know what we have here, because if they did, people would want to come here. And I think David and Irene has sort of opened up the eyes of the world to say, oh my God, there's actually a place like this? When I done my interview with Tom Brokaw, I was talking to the crew before he comes. Tom Brokaw, when he sends in a pre-crew to set everything up and all that other stuff, and they say they've never seen a province like this. They've been to every place in the world, but Newfoundland and Labrador, they have something special. He said, you guys are something different and special to the world. And in one sense, I'm glad it's getting out there, and in another, I'm afraid. This province needs what David and Irene is doing for it, but I'm just afraid it might, not sink the island, but I don't want it. I don't want this to become, I hate to say it, but I will, like Cuba and Florida, where everything is just built on tourists and people just do, I just want us to be who we are and just, but still have the people come, you know what I mean? And, but I want to thank David and Irene and Michael Rubinoff, Junkyard Dog Productions, the actors, everybody is involved in Come From Away. It has done wonders for this town, this region, and this province. And that's it.
All right, thank you
I'm done.
very much. Thank you.